Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I'm Maufidah Zizaniatul Latifah. My ID number is 212101060049. Here, I will discuss the topic in the second language acquisition course. The first topic is the causative variable in the second language acquisition. The second is providing input for acquisition. And the last is the rule of grammar. In discussing causative variable in the second language acquisition, there are 5 important points including first, the causative variable, the second is language teaching, the third is exposure variable, the fourth is age, and the last is acculturation. Let's jump to the first discussion. The first is the causative variable in the second language acquisition refer to the factor that affect how individuals learn the second language. And the second is language teaching. The classroom main function is to provide comprehensible input in an environment conducive to a low filter, especially for beginner and a foreign language student to cannot easily utilize information environment. Language teaching help when it is the main course of low filter comprehensible input and less helpful when rich search to input the available. The three is exposure variable. Exposure refers to the contact that the learners has with the language that they're trying to learn, either generally or with specific language point. In other words, can be called as how they will practice. The fourth is age. This section is divided into 3 parts. The first is adults proceed through the early stage or a second language development faster than children do, where time and exposure are held constant. The second is older children acquire faster than younger children, time and exposure held constant. And the last is acquirers who begin natural exposure to second language during childhood generally achieve higher second language proficiency that just beginning as adult. And the fifth material is acculturation. Acculturation is when two cultures meet, two complicated and multifaceted process begins. The second topic I will explain about providing input for the acquisition, including the potential of the second language classroom, limitation of the classroom, the role of output, and characteristic of optimal input for acquisition. The first is the potential of the second language classroom. The classroom is beneficial when it is the primary source of comprehensible input, as it helps acquirers understand and take advantage of rich source of input outside the classroom. The informal environment, on the other hand, may not provide as much comprehensible input for older second language students due to its complexity, vocabulary, and complexity. The second is limitation of the classroom. The third is the role of output. The input hypothesis such as language fluency is acquired through understanding input rather than speaking, while it's possible to acquire language without speaking. Output indirectly affect the quantity and quality of input. Output can provide error correction but is not the causative variable. The fourth is characteristic of optimal input for acquisition, including optimal input is comprehensible, optimal input is interesting and or relevant, optimal input is not grammatically sequenced, and the fourth is optimal input must be in sufficient quantity. Next, to the last topic, I want to explain about the role of grammar or putting grammar in its place. First is learning does not become acquisition. Learning does not necessarily become acquisition. The idea that conscious learning of the rule eventually leads to acquisition is not always the case. Acquisition does not necessarily require previous learning, while learning may often precede acquisition. It is not a direct cause of acquisition. We acquire along of natural order when we receive comprehensible input and occasionally when we learn certain rules before we acquire them, giving the illusion that learning causes the acquisition. The second is the place of grammar. Grammar for monitor use when the monitor is used. The optimal usage of grammar rules is in language learning, particularly in relation to the monitor function. The monitor refers to the conscious use of learners' grammar rules to monitor and correct one's speech or writing. The optimal monitor user known to the use conscious rules and the successful monitor is requires time to focus and form. The second is we can be monitoring, including incompetent monitor use, rule runnability, some evidence, and consequence of teaching hard rules. Okay, I think that's enough discussion the three topic. I apologize if there are many mistakes, especially in the pronunciation. And thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.